Guten Tag, der Bruders and Schwesters, bienvenidos hermanos y hermanas, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Über Cinco, the podcast game show where we deep dive top fives. My name is Brother Nathan Henenfent. I'm a Franciscan monk on spring break every year, and I'll be hosting today's episode all about fraternal bonds, where our contestants will reveal and defend their top five brothers of all time. From Cain and Abel in the Bible all the way to Dwayne and Greg Allman of the Allman Brothers Band, all famous brothers are in play today as we celebrate brotherly love. Joining me to judge and divvy up the scores today is Brian Ernst. Welcome, Brian. How's it going?
Hello. Welcome. I'm so happy to be here. I'm welcoming myself. I can't even talk today. It's early. Keep going.
Now, Brian and I are both brothers, but we don't have brothers. So we don't fully understand the brotherhood picture. So we have contestants today that are both brothers, have brothers, and are each other's brothers. It's Mitch Brinkman and the living organism most closely biologically related to him, Andy Brinkman. Welcome to the Brinkman Boys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate that. Does it sound like it's the same person just talking?
Our listeners might struggle.
Yeah. It's a meta game that you get to play this episode. Which Brinkman brother is talking?
Yes.
Is this an elaborate ruse by us creating an alter ego for Mitch?
Oh, that would be sad if I was the alter ego that you created.
Well, welcome, Andy. It's your first time on the show. You're going head-to-head against your very own brother. How do you feel like you're going to do?
Oh, crush him utterly and completely. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm actually feeling so much more nervous than I've ever felt for another episode because I both want to make Andy proud. I want to show him up and also don't want to get crushed by him. So there's like this weird cauldron of emotions that I'm trying to fight back.
Trifecta of anxiety. Perfect.
Yeah, it's
just like being on the baseball field when you were 10 years old again.
Yeah, I mean, the baseball field was different because Andy was crap at baseball, so that was my kingdom, baby. But
I got to play first base solely because I was left-handed, and that was it. No other reason.
That is 80% of the position, but anyways, that's a topic for a different show. If this is your first foray into the den, or if you need a friendly reminder, let's wake you out of hibernation with a quick rundown of the rules. Each player in the den has spent time with today's topic arranging their top five answers in order of importance. Those answers have been submitted to the host who will moderate the game, awarding points to the player with the most poignant answer.
Starting with their number 5 choice, we will move up the ranks until we reach each of their top answers. But if both contestants happen to have the same answer on their list, well, we have an Uber stare-down.
You will hear the official Über Cinco siren, and both players must reveal their answer and what number they ranked their submission. An Über stare-down is all or nothing, with one player earning 3 points. After all answers have been read, the host will reveal the final score.
Please remember, you can join in on the fun. If you have a topic or Fast Five you would like covered on the show, or if you just have a question for us you would like us to answer, head over to bizbear.biz and send it our way. And don't forget to stick around to the end for my Fast Five, where I will rattle off my definitive list of the top 5 guys of all time.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
Andy, you won the pre-show race out of Mrs. Brinkman's womb, so as the older brother, you get to go first. Give us your number 5.
Okay, so my number 5. I'm starting off with a tactical play. Okay, this is my first time on the show, but I'm a fan of the show. I know how the game works. So I think we should start this out with an Uber stare-down because I'm pretty sure that Mitch is going to have these bros on his list, and so I'm just going to cut them off at the knees. I think they're going to be high on his list too. My number 5 best brothers of all time are the Coen Brothers. Oh yeah.
You son of a wonderful mother, you piece of shit. God damn it. That is my number 1.
That was some serious game theory optimal play there by Andy. Mitch, where did you have the Coen Brothers on your list? And we all know they were going to be there.
Number 1, they're the most inspired brothers to ever see anything. They're the best. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, you'll have your say here in a second. We're gonna let your brother give his reasons why he listed them at number 5. Andy, the floor is yours. Please dazzle us.
Okay,
I'm giving double barrel middle fingers.
Okay, well earned. Like any good Minnesotan, when given the opportunity to talk about the Coen Brothers, I will just leap at the opportunity to just jabber on about why these two good boys from St. Louis Park, Minnesota, have made good and are like two of the greatest directors of all time. They write, direct, and also often edit every single one of their films. They actually have a pseudonym that they made named Roderick Janes, who they edit their own films under and credit it to one guy because they just kind of like split the credit because they're very good brothers. They're very nice Minnesotan brothers, and that's what makes them great also. If I'm being honest, I probably would have put the Coen Brothers much higher on my list had I not been playing against Mitchell, but I knew. I also know that Mitchell will likely go on some sort of a screed about The Big Lebowski. And listen, The Big Lebowski is great. It's a great movie. I love it. But it's also kind of like, you know, that's an obvious pick for the Coen Brothers, in my opinion. In my opinion, I think you need look no further than "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" to justify the Coen Brothers among the pantheons of the greatest brothers. It's a loose adaptation of the Odysseys, of Homer's The Odyssey, which, how you make that into an amazing film, I don't know, but they managed to do it. It's set in the Dust Bowl South, which is like an incredibly like ripe setting for a film, right? It's got magical realism in it. It's got historical allusions to real people. It has an incredible cast of characters playing really fun roles, like John Goodman as the villainous Cyclops. Are you kidding me? Amazing. Fucking amazing. But there's two main things to me about Oh Brother that are just like unbeatable. First, George Clooney's first like truly good comedic role, right? Like this was the role to me that proved that Clooney can do comedy. He's not just a hot face. Still a hot face, but he can do comedy too. Ulysses Everett McGill, like just so many beautiful, incredible lines written, attributed to this character, including like the very first thing that comes out of this dude's mouth in this movie is, "Say, any of you boys smithies, or if not smithies per se, were you otherwise trained in the metallurgic arts before straitened circumstances forced you into a life of aimless wandering?" You just can't top that. It comes right off the bat. And then, as if it couldn't get any better, this movie and its soundtrack was a cultural like force to be reckoned with. What other, like, it inspired dads all across the globe to realize that, no, actually, I do love roots music. I do, actually, although none of them could tell you the name of another Roots song besides "I'm a Man of Constant Sorrow." And I'll tell you what, our dad played that song and sang that song around the house for like a year afterwards. So there you go. The Coen Brothers, a huge oeuvre, a huge body of work, if you will. All of it great. For my money, Oh Brother puts it up there. Also, I'm an art nerd. It was the first movie ever completely digitally color corrected, and it looks incredible. It still to this day, I think, stands the way to do that right. So there you go, Coen Brothers.
Those were some compelling cases. I am in camp Oh Brother, Where Art Thou. I did enjoy the detail of your paterfamilias, as Ulysses Everett McGill would have said, walking around singing that song. That brought us a nice well of emotion in me. I could see, for those of you who aren't watching on YouTube and are just listening, I've been watching Mitch's face as it's gone through just so many different emotions here, where he wants to agree, but he's also getting so angry. So Mitch, it's over to you for your rebuttal.
Well, first off, I just love how Andy, when he reads his opening, he's like, "And they have a pseudonym, Roderick Janes," where it's like, how do you not just know that off the top of your head? Roderick Janes, that's the editor that they have always been. Like, of course. Okay, do you even know where the title of the film Oh Brother, Where Art Thou comes from? Do you know that one? It's a Preston Sturges film, Sullivan's Travels. In that film, it's based off of a book called Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, okay? That's the deep cut knowledge that I'm bringing to this conversation. Also, the Coen Brothers. Big Lebowski is a great film. Yes, of course. It's incredible. Came about in the late 90s when multiplexes were spreading across the country. They needed more films to fill it all, and they got the money. They got to do this weird, incredible rug epic. But what you really need to think about with the Coen Brothers is how each film they make has it's a rug epic.
There haven't been many others made. I can't think of a different one.
I'm trying to think of another rug epic, and I don't know. Like the scene from Matilda when the kid lands on the rug, and I don't know. That's such a small scene that doesn't make any sense. No, like every film they make has a big idea behind it. It's beautifully constructed. One of the a great example of it, again, a regular theme in their work is their films later becoming cult followings, not doing great at the box office initially, is the Hudsucker Proxy. It's a circle, man. That's all it is. A circle reinvents itself continuously, moves the world forward. The cycles of greed and capitalism run through the characters. The people they hate, they become themselves. It's an incredible display of artistry. And also I want to say, I can top Andy here because I have a personal story, a personal connection to the brothers, to the Big Lebowski, to one of the greatest American actors ever. And that was when we were interviewing, I shouldn't say interview, I was running the camera, we were talking to Sam Elliott, and he told the best story ever from the Lebowski set when he's doing that last scene right into the camera, and he's doing it like 13, 14 times. And famously, the Coen Brothers don't give a lot of direction on set. Either they kind of like let their actors work, or they do a bunch of pre-production work so they know what they're doing. Take 14, Sam Elliott turns to the brothers, is like, what the hell am I doing here, guys? I feel like a cactus with his dick out in the wind or whatever. And then the brothers go, oh, we had it on the third take. We just love watching you work. I mean, right there. Sam Elliott said that to our faces. We were feet away. There's just no better. There's no better than the brothers. They came up the hard way. They started out, Joel was an editor for horror films. Their first film, Blood Simple, they raised money from family and friends and bozos, the 3 Bs. That's what they say when you're raising money for film. A little sneaky, a little dirty. Their first film, they filmed non-union, so it was much cheaper down in Texas. That helped get it done, but they did what they had to do to deliver their first film, a masterpiece. And I'm not counting Intolerable Cruelty in there, but everything else has been absolutely amazing. So again, Andy touched on it, the artistry, the colors. You didn't even mention the legend himself. I know I'm going on here, but I have a lot to say as my number one.
Yeah,
the notes
please.
I sent you, that's all I wrote down. Everything else is right off top of the old noggin here. Roger Deakins. Roger Deakins should have won an Oscar decades before he did. It just the camera moves, everything, the shots, and also my favorite line from the Big Lebowski. It might be a little tawdry or a little off color, but when the Big Lebowski himself says, my legs, he's referring to his legs, a Chinaman took them from me in Korea. It just perfectly encapsulates the character, how he's just inward looking, how he's just this, greedy, awful white guy who's been handed literally everything to him. He hasn't had to work for it. So, yeah, that's it. I'm laying that at your feet. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you two. And Brian, I know you are not a Coen Brothers lover or fan, but I respect your opinion and I value your insights. So thank you very much.
I am so glad I'm off the hook on this one.
Can I inject one super fast Coen Brothers story? Because I just know, just to needle Mitchell just a little bit more. I was at home. I think I was living in either Chicago or maybe Kansas City at the time. I came home to Minneapolis for Christmas and I was doing last minute Christmas shopping. I went to like a thrift store and found the Lebowski sweater hanging on a rack at this thrift store. And this thrift store was a place, it wasn't like a Goodwill or whatever. This was like a boutique place that bought like vintage raw denim and shit like that. And so I like asked the lady, I was like, is this the Lebowski sweater? And she was like, oh yeah, funny enough, actually that's from the production of the movie. That's one of like 14 or 15 Sears sweaters that they used. Like in, I don't know if it was B Unit filming that happened in Minnesota or whatever. This could have been bullshit, but this is what the lady told me. And I was like, incredible, and it was the sweater, but Andy was too broke to buy a $350 sweater for Mitchell, so he didn't get the actual Big Lebowski sweater for Christmas.
Oh my God! Oh,
well, here,
heartbreak.
I have a counterpoint to this, Andy. So yes, Andy, that may have been apocryphal because famously, the wardrobe of the dude came directly from Jeff Bridges' own closet. So unless he brought that and they remade it 14 times over, there's a good chance they didn't have 14 different.
Are you saying
sweaters
Jeff Bridges doesn't shop
Steve-
at Sears?
Yeah. Mitch is gonna have to keep telling himself that for the rest of his life, just so he doesn't have to live in a world where he almost had the Lebowski sweater. But Brian, it's your time to weigh in here. You are, of the four of us who have gathered here together in this sacred ritual, you are the one who's least enthusiastic about the Coen Brothers. But all the power rests with you to give out the 3 points for the Uber stare down.
This is true. I would say I am not a Coen Brothers fan. I was slow to the party. I will say this. I needed to age and mature. I needed to mature into the brothers. Now, there's a lot of things happening here. Mitch did help me shoot an interview with Sam Elliott, but his angle was out of focus, so I don't know if this counts. And on Andy's side, you used the term oeuvre first, and you mentioned color grading. Now, this is where I'm stuck. I feel like for the sake of our friendship, I need to award the 3 points to Mitchell Brinkman.
Well, he clearly deserves them more than I do.
Or I'll never hear from him again. So for the sake of this show and the audience, the Uber stare down goes to Mitch Brinkman.
How dare you use our friendship? How dare you, spineless coward. You know, just for that, give the 3 points to Andy. I'm going to win this motherfucker anyway.
I don't know. I already had it pre-written on my on my outro here. If Brian had gone Andy's way, I already said, and Mitch Brinkman on his final appearance on Uber Cinco. I was ready to admit he was never coming back.
So you have the 3 points.
All right, so Mitch is going to take the 3 points reluctantly as this struggle of the two brothers continues. And Mitch, it's also your turn to give us your number 5 on your list.
Sure. My number 5, they're not only brothers, but they're twins.
Ooh.
And that is Vincent and Julius from the film, the great 80s classic, Twins.
And who are the fine thespians that played these two twins?
Of course, Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. They're separated at birth. Their mom is told that both babies died. Very dark.
What a hilarious premise.
Right? Vincent goes to LA, lives in an orphanage, seduces a nun, escapes the orphanage, and is living a life as a street hustler in LA. I don't think he lives in Glendale. I think at this point in the 80s, you could live kind of anywhere in LA. It's a little more affordable. Julius is raised on an island by scientists that test his mental acuity. They make sure he's a world-class athlete. He, of course, comes to find his brother at the age of 35, Devito, and they can't believe it that they're brothers because, Schwarzenegger, Devito, and this is where the hilarity comes in, you guys. they're twins technically, and this is kind of what I remember when I saw this film recently. Again, I kind of thought about like, man, I bet this is what Andy felt like when I was born and came along. Like he's this kind of like little ragamuffin street hustler, and here comes this just like Adonis, really tall, great head of hair, earnest, heart is open, willing to trust people, very intelligent, fast, very fast. All these things. Also in this film throughout, much like I do, Schwarzenegger wears a blazer with shorts, which looks utterly stupid, but I've done that many times throughout my life. This film is just like, it's one of those great 80s films where the premise is just it's so thin and flimsy, but they just adhere to it. And on top of this like surface comedy, there's some real darkness. Like their mom thinks they're dead the whole time, and then when they go to find their mom, she rejects them and doesn't believe that her children are alive. She's like, there's no way. But again, like in many 80s films, if someone just asked one question or two and another person answered it, they'd be like, oh yeah, and then everything would be fixed and it'd be fine and things would move forward. But there's a long and dark legacy to this film that I discovered, and this is not, a definite thing. This is something that I read in words, but I kind of I extrapolated a bit. So when they were making this movie, the studio was like, we don't want to let Schwarzenegger do comedy because he's obviously Arnold Schwarzenegger. He sucks at acting. He doesn't have the subtlety to pull off jokes. So they didn't, Devito, and Reitman did not take salaries for this film. They just did profit participation. They made it for like $15 million or whatever. Goes on to make over $200 million. So all of them earn this enormous paycheck. Like they got 20% of the box office revenue. That's a shit ton of cash. And so this made them a bunch of money, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was on record as saying it proved that investing in yourself works. And so from then he kept doing comedies with Ivan Reitman. Kindergarten Cop, which is like, Junior, we know how that turned out. But then what that means is this then led to Jingle All the Way, which is the darkest stain ever on Minnesota and Christmas all at once. And so this movie,
that's even an arrow to your Achilles heel, Mitchell. Minnesota and Christmas at the same time.
Exactly. And so even though I obviously don't like that legacy, it's so important to Arnold trying to destroy film in the early 90s with his performances that it deigned mentioning. So
was Junior the movie where
5.
Arnold is pregnant?
Also,
am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
Yes, you are right about that. Yeah.
Which is the more biological impossibility? Arnold and Danny DeVito being twins, or Arnold being pregnant? They're both.
Honestly, I think it's the twins. I think it's the twins.
Yeah. I mean, also in this film, DeVito, you just so clearly see the lines towards Frank Reynolds. It's just like his line deliveries, the things he says, his scumbagginess, it's all there. And in classic 80s, like first draft green light status with this film, the bad guy, the industrialist, his name is Beetroot McKinley, which I just love so much. It's just
Beetroot McKinley.
Beetroot McKinley, played by Trey Wilson, who was in Raised in Arizona, a Coen Brother classic film, playing Nathan Arizona, Arizona's largest furniture dealer. So, the connections just keep on coming. I apologize for just.
It's a world of brothers we just live in.
All right.
Exactly.
Well, Brian, please give out your judgment on. You were already very generous towards Mitch on the stare down. So how many more points can you possibly award him here?
Well, this is where my generosity ends. All right, you had me at twins. Then you lost me when you said you watched Twins again, which means it required a second viewing. Then you shit on Kindergarten Cop and Jingle All the Way, two of the most important films of my upbringing. So you are down to 1 point, sir, for this round.
Jesus.
Jingle All the Way. Go wait. Kindergarten Cop has got It's Not the Doomer. Okay, you got that, and then Jingle All the Way, you got Jamie, I need a Turbo Man. Like you can't. Just down to 1 point.
Just when you're editing this, just take the time to go back and listen to those lines you just said.
And award more points to myself.
Okay,
correct.
Yes.
Okay. 0.5 points for Brian.
Yes.
Well, Mitch has taken a commanding lead so far, but there's a long way to go. And Andy, your chance to make up ground starts now. Please give us your number 4.
Yeah, so for my number 4, I went with a little bit of a dark horse candidate here. My number 4 brother set is the Einstein Brothers of Einstein Brothers brand bagels company.
Yes!
Now, so for a little backstory for the audience, I live in Glendale, currently in LA, but I just moved here from New York like 2 years ago or something. And it is impossible, I say, impossible to live in New York for more than like a week and not fall in love with bagels, right? I think everybody probably loves a bagel, but like you live in New York and you just, it's in the water, literally, I guess, the bagel love. So look, Einstein Brothers brand bagels are not the best bagels in the world. I'm not making that argument, of course. But I ask, is the world a better place for the presence of Einstein Brothers brand bagels? And I would say unequivocally, yes. A little bit of history for you. This bagel company was like, I think, many large national brands, kind of like a conglomerate of a bunch of smaller local bagel companies that came together originally, like back in the 90s, under the name Progressive Bagel Concepts Incorporated. Which I think is pretty badass, because until this point, I ask, has anyone in history really seriously interrogated the concept of a bagel before Progressive Bagel Concepts Incorporated? I would say probably not. Also, has anyone ever committed to a progressive breakfast before in history? I don't think so. I don't know about you, but I am all for a pro-choice breakfast, personally.
It's like the opposite of a prayer breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. And so much better, Nathan. So much better.
I'm a pro-life cinnamon flavor person. So
out, you devil. And also as like a little side bonus, one of these many like little bagel companies that formed to make Einstein Brothers brand bagel company was called Brackman Brothers Bagels, which are basically like name cousins to us Brinkman brothers. So I think that, is good. So, I admittedly, like, I don't have a whole lot more to say aside from the interesting history of Einstein Brothers Bagels, Einstein Brothers brand bagel company, because I think the product speaks for itself, my friends. Like, where would you be in this life without a bagel with a generous schmear, or an everything with lox and some thinly sliced cucumbers and red onions, or, like Mitchell was alluding to, the sweet treat, a cinnamon bagel with a honey or a fruit schmear of your, of your choosing. And so Einstein Brothers have played no small part in making the bagel a staple on the breakfast table. And for that reason, they deserve a place in history.
I'm very curious to hear if Mitch has any rebuttal to this, because I've known the two of you as brothers for a long time, and this, I feel like you were speaking with one mind and one heart as Brinkman's through that to me.
I was curious. I don't know, in your research about Progressive Bagel Concepts Incorporated, were they the ones that brought the sugar crusted bagels, the Asiago cheese jalapeno bagels, those kind of things to market? Do you know, are those the first to do it?
I don't know if they're the first, but certainly they were the best.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Andy, but I think I'm more of a New Yorker at heart than you are, because it's everything or salt or garlic or dye. That's it. That's all I'm doing. I don't care for the sweet bagels. I don't care for the Asiago cheese. I am traditional in that sense.
So you're boring.
Yeah. Mitchell,
no,
I'm
not at all, my
personal,
friend.
This isn't personal proclivities. I am making a universal appeal. I am making an argument for the universal appeal of our good round little breakfast buds, Sure. Boiled and baked, baby.
I have I know. I've had their bagels before, and they're not bagels. They're just pieces of bread that are cut in the shape of a bagel. So, I know.
But again, to go back to our sort of conceptual framework, we find ourselves at a Hegelian dialectic here, right? Like, both things are true. Bagels are amazing and necessary and should be in the world, but Einstein Brothers bagels are not good. But they do put more good into the world. They're not detracting from the world, right? You wouldn't kick an Einstein Brothers bagel out of bed, would you?
After I was done with it, yeah, sure.
All right. Well, that was the fastest we've ever gone from highbrow comedy to lowbrow comedy in the history of the show. I salute you for it. But Brian, it's time for you to make sense of this existential crisis.
Oh, we got to hear Mitch's number 4 first.
Oh,
That's right. I'm so sorry, Mitch.
That's okay.
Lay it on us. Your number 4.
My number 4 is a classic pair of brothers. These boys came out during a time of immense change in America, and that was so I'm talking about the Carter brothers. Jimmy and Billy Carter. Woo! Straight down here from Plains, Georgia. How you doing, boys? Buy some peanuts. Drink some beer. Let's do it. Woo! That's a terrible.
I love how the Carters are not just the Duke boys.
But okay, so a couple. I mean, you guys, Jimmy Carter, obviously the president. He experienced one of the largest meteoric rises of any presidential candidate who was then elected. He was basically an unknown 9 months before the election, and thanks to his appeal to mass media, like executives in their treatment of him, he was able to like become a very large public face very quickly. I don't agree with all the things that he said in his campaign in terms of like how he kept like segregationist voters on his side. He said some pretty dodgy things about not wanting to prevent people from keeping their neighborhoods pure if they didn't want people coming in. So like he kind of rode both sides of the fence. He's also the first evangelical candidate ever elected, and his presidential election what helped the Republican strategists realize what they needed to push on, and that was evangelical and Christianity and that kind of thing. But also, interesting point, him and JFK are the only presidents to win an election in the 20th century, and not carry California. So, that's fun. Take that back to your friend circle and mention that. Andy, do you have a comment? Do you want to jump in?
I was going to say, interesting.
Yeah, okay,
if it's anything our listeners want more, it's electoral college history. God damn it, Mitch.
Yeah. I mean, come on. What? But also, he was in his naval career. At one point, he had to deal with a nuclear accident. Him and his team, and so that actually caused him to not want to continue to develop the neutron bomb, which is kind of cool. He was pro signing a treaty with Russia to de-escalate the nuclear proliferation. He wanted a separate agency for education. He wanted public financing of congressional campaigns, which I think is very cool. Take the money out of the campaign would be a great thing. He wanted to reduce the defense budget. He wanted to substantially increase taxes on the very wealthiest and reduce taxes on middle and lower income. So, in general, good president. And of course, we know he went on to live very long and has done Habitat for Humanity. Wonderful guy. Also a cinephile, too. He watched a ton of movies in the White House, which is kind of cool. But then you look at his brother. During the campaign, the press went to Plains, Georgia, their hometown, to go figure out what this Jimmy Carter guy was really all about, because no one really knew who he was. And there, at the gas station in town, they found the purveyor of the gas, Billy Carter himself. He held a informal salon of buffoonery, if you will. Him and his buddies guzzled beer, drank peanuts, and shot the bullshit all day long. Turned out he was an incredible spokesman. He basically would take a check to promote anything. At one point, he was the spokesman for Lolita Peanut Liqueur while Jimmy Carter was in office. And famously, he had his own beer named after him. It was called Billy Beer, produced by Fall City Brewing in Louisville. But the problem was that the beer wasn't so good. And so the tagline, which Billy would say, which was, "I had this beer brewed up just for me. I think it's the best I ever tasted. And I've tasted a lot. I think you'll like it too." But the problem was, it was so bad that he would go to these promotional events for Billy Beer, get drunk, and then tell the media that he actually just drinks PBR all day, every day. And
a man after my own heart.
Right? It would just totally undercut the Billy Beer over and over and over again. And like at one point, he was famous for saying, like, my heart is what I have a red hat, a white shirt, and a blue beer in my hand, or something like that, referring to the Blue Ribbon Award that Pabst won at the 1893 Columbia Exposition in Chicago. And then there's just Billy Carter is just such a fascinating guy. He basically just a buffoon and a drunk, and you would go to these public appearances. He once peed on a carpet, like a walk-in carpet, in front of everyone. He was so wasted. He developed contacts in Libya and became a registered agent of Libya, and got a loan from Muammar Gaddafi. I don't know how he figured that out, being wasted, but he figured that out. He got some cash there.
Carpet pissers, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's a rug epic. It always comes back to the rug, my friend.
It's all about rugs, man.
It's all about rugs. But in a sad twist of fate, just like their sister, Billy succumbed to pancreatic cancer at the age of 51. So the fact that Jimmy just keeps on living, baby. Wait, did he pass away?
He's still alive.
He's still alive. Okay, sorry.
That plays into my points here.
Okay.
As of recording, he is still alive. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's what I thought.
But let's wrap it up just in case.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So okay, that's my number 4. Jimmy Carter, Billy Carter, just two wonderful two sides of a coin, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I somehow had missed out on this gem of a human being, Mitch. So thank you for bringing him to my attention. But
you're welcome.
It's of course not me who you have to impress. It's Brian. And so, Brian, the floor is yours for the scores.
Absolutely. Back to Andy for his Einstein bagels. You said 3 things that tickled my fancy: sweet treat, schmear, and breakfast buds. For those 3 things, you're getting 3 points. And
yes!
Over to Mitch. I mean, it's the Carter brothers. That's great. You didn't even know if your own subject was still alive. Not working great for you. And you skipped over the best setup of all time. You didn't say that the rug he pissed on tied the room together. You missed it. It was right there. So you're only getting 2 points for the Carter bros.
Well, technically the rug was outside, so
you didn't say that.
Room, so there you go.
Didn't say that.
All right. Okay.
So I do want to commend Mitch here for a very important contribution, which was he unwittingly described our show better than anybody ever has when he used the phrase "salon of buffoonery," which has to go in our advertising materials from now on.
That I agree.
So that was top notch, sir. All right, I believe we need to move on to round number 3. We're going to go back to Andy. Please reveal and defend your number 3.
Yes, my number 3 pick for the best brothers of all time is the Wilson brothers. You know them as Owen, Luke, and Andrew. And the reason that I've chosen the Wilson brothers is because I think they're incredibly inspirational figures because of the delta between the skill, the talent that they have, and the success that they have achieved. Right? Like, I don't know if there's any set of brothers in history who have done so much with so little as the Wilson brothers. And for that reason, they're my number 3. We're going to go in actually not even chronological order. We're going to go in like fame order here. So like Owen Wilson, everybody knows Owen Wilson, right? Clearly the most talented of the 3 Wilson brothers. He co-wrote Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, and Royal Tenenbaums with Wes Anderson, in addition to acting in those films. All 3, I think, great films. Rushmore, for me personally, is probably my favorite of the entire Wes Anderson oeuvre, again, to use that word for a second time. And, I think despite honestly Owen Wilson not bringing much more than an "oh wow" to the table, he's managed to be in like 60 films over the course of his career, spanning almost every genre, right? Like I think he was nominated for, I probably should have done this research ahead of the show. I think he was nominated for an Oscar for that Woody Allen movie that he was in, Midnight in Paris.
Correct. That is the name of the movie.
Of course, he's been in a bunch of comedies, but for me, the pinnacle of Owen Wilson's film career is Behind Enemy Lines, which is one of the dumbest dumb guy action movies ever made, in probably starring Owen Wilson. And the reason that I love this movie so much is that it has a really absurd scene at the end of the film that is like 4 minutes straight of Owen Wilson running through a snowy field while like 200 enemies behind him shoot at him with guns, somehow missing him. He's running towards a cliff to just jump off the cliff, and then some friendly helicopters come up the cliff, and they're like waving him on, like, "Come on, Owen." I don't even know what his name is in the movie. "Owen, come and jump onto the helicopter like an action guy." And he runs, and as he's running, the movie cuts to a flashback of earlier in the film where he landed in like a gross pool of like dead bodies, like war crimes shit. And he has this flashback where he sees the war crimes that he landed on an hour earlier, and he's like, it cuts to a close up of him literally being like, no, I'm not just gonna run away. And he stops, turns 180, and runs headlong back into this like 100 dudes shooting machine guns at him. Does a slide, like a baseball slide for like 15 feet with 1 foot in the air, shooting his handgun like wildly. And then he does all this. What is he after? He's after a computer chip that is buried in the snow. And so he like reaches into a computer and plucks out this computer chip and then stands out and again runs back to the helicopters that are now waiting for him, who are also shooting. So there's bullets going both directions. It's all in slow motion. It takes literally 4 minutes for this action to happen. And it is incredible. I saw this film in the theater for God knows what reason, but I did see it at the discount theater, one of the discount theaters in St. Paul, outside of Minnesota, called the Roseville 4. It was $2 to get in. We would always go there because there was a grocery store right next door. It was the worst setup for a movie theater you could possibly think of. You would just go to the grocery store next door, buy whatever treats you wanted for the film, go into the discount movie theater run by 14-year-olds or 15-year-olds who don't give a fuck and eat whatever. And so they just made no money. The floors were like so sticky that your shoes would almost come off when you walked through the theater. And when I saw this particular film, I was like a really shitty teenager. I bought a roll of chocolate chip cookie dough, like in the tube, as to eat as like a snack in the theater. And I had like half of it. Got sick, and then just left the half-eaten roll of cookie dough behind in the movie theater. Not my proudest moment, but an incredible movie. Okay, so Luke Wilson, I'm going to keep it short because that was a lot on Owen, but Luke Wilson, he deserves to be in this list for Idiocracy alone. He's just such a sweet, dumb, handsome boy. He also, something that I came across in my research is that he really wants to be a dad. He's not married. He's had a string of girlfriends, but he wants to be a father so badly that like the press noticed this. And there's like one reporter who said, Luke, you said in 1996 that you wanted to be a father. What's going on? And this is in 2019 that a press person asked that. And he's like, my mom doesn't even ask me these questions. And he's like, I want to be a dad so badly, but I guess I got to get down to work. I'm 47 already. And it's like, what kind of just like a sweet boy is out in the press talking about how he wants to be a dad so much that like they remember and bring it up like 10 years later.
Oh boy.
And then here for Andrew Wilson, I literally don't have anything written down. Like, lol. He gets by on his handsome squint, but he gets to ride his brother's coattails.
That's going to be his obituary, Andrew Wilson. I didn't have anything written down.
Yeah. So to wrap up, a quote from Owen Wilson's tour de force, Marley and Me. A dog doesn't care if you're rich or poor, clever or dull, smart or dumb. Give him your heart and he will give you his. How many people can you say that about? How many people can make you feel rare and pure and special? How many people can make you feel extraordinary? And I am telling you right now, the Wilson brothers can. They're my number 3.
Wow.
That's beautiful. I mean, Mitch, we need to hear your number 3, but as somebody who's spent thousands of hours our freshman year of college rewatching Owen Wilson's great performance in Wedding Crashers, I have to hear your thoughts on your brother's number 3 first.
Wow. I have to say, at first I thought it was cool, but the whole Luke Wilson and Old School and everyone calling him Mitchapalooza, that sort of like, that was real annoying freshman year. And unfortunately, also was something I played into and I'm not proud of. The Wilson brothers, though, I couldn't agree with you more, Andy. The delta between the success and the talent is unconscionable. Obviously, they have to thank Wes Anderson for everything. That's pretty clear. But my number 3 is another. This is another fictional brothers, but they're incredible. They're the best. And that is, they're a businessman, a magician, and a poor soldier. the Bluth boys. So this is Michael Bluth, Joe Bluth, and Buster Bluth.
Yes.
A mama's boy, a motherless boy, and a mother's boy, I'm calling them. Never has anyone created a better comedic triumvirate to play off of each other. Michael Bluth, of course, the consummate and top-level straight man, but also not the hero, not always the good guy. He does some pretty reprehensible things. Joe Bluth will be forever remembered for his fuck-ups at spring break on girls with low self-esteem, but he redeemed himself by making the yacht disappear. And Buster Bluth, if you can find him, he is a Milford man. He's good for a great conversation about sweaters or juice. And these three boys kept me company for a good part of the first chunk of college. I'd watch Arrested Development on DVD, just let it play. Nathan knows all about the DVD music playing in the background.
Sure do.
Yep. God, Michael wants his mother's love, and he, Lucille can play everyone. Obviously, she's a master manipulator. He loves it when his mother loves him and is being nice to him. All Job wants is anyone to pay attention to him and love him. But, he's the worst, and they all know that. And Buster, poor Buster, he knows his place in life, but he just, he wants his wings to spread and fly, but he wants his mom underneath him at all times, just making sure he doesn't fall. They're just incredible brothers. So I don't know if I have to say much more than that. I mean, I guess some of my favorite moments. I mean, the Michael Bluth double take is incredible. Mr. Banana Grabber, Baby Banana Grabber, and any Banana Grabber characters that emanate therefrom, wonderful. And I
love it when Buster gets his juice. When Buster's like cranked up on that juice, oh baby, look out.
Mitch, my question is, my question for you, Mitch, is Andy provided a hypothesis here about the Wilson brothers, in which overachievement in itself is a skill.
Sure.
Now, what is the hidden superpower of the Bluth brothers as a collective to you?
I mean, it's boy, they don't have
deep
much.
breath,
it's just
deep
Michael. I mean, he's the one that had to choose to hold them all together. Michael did, and I mean,
if I could interject a hypothesis here to help my own brother out here, I think the Bluth brothers, boy, who knew there would be so many challenging B's to say in this episode?
brothers.
The Bluth brothers are perfectly represented metaphorically by the model home that Arrested Development takes place in. It's this shoddily constructed, mostly hollow, barely held together facade. And I think that is the perfect metaphor for the brothers and the rest of the family, right?
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
This is sons of architects here talking.
Yeah.
It's all one big illusion.
All right, Brian, it's over you to score the round out, please.
All right, it's pretty easy here. 3 points to Mitch. It's Arrested Development. It's the Blues. So you get 3 points. Andy, I was only gonna give you 2 points because you were wrong here. Owen was only nominated for screenwriting for Royal Tenenbaums. It was a Golden Globe nominee for Midnight in Paris, and an Alliance of Women Film Journalists nomination for Midnight in Paris. So you didn't get that one, but you did call Luke.
That's the dreamiest nomination.
Yeah, you did call Luke a sweet, dumb, handsome boy. So you are also getting 3 points for this round.
Yes. I'll take it. Thank you, Brian.
Yes, you're welcome.
All right, beautiful. That moves us on to our number 2s. We're getting closer to the summit of brotherhood. And Andy, it's your turn again. Please give us your number 2.
Sure thing. I don't know. I feel like maybe my number 2 is a little bit more niche, but I felt like I had to get one in here for me. I also wasn't sure ahead of time. Sorry for all these preambles. This is just, you're just going to have to live with it.
Get to it. God damn it. Jesus.
I thought maybe Nathan would be judging. I wasn't sure if Nathan or Brian was judging, so I thought, I know that classic rock is kind of in Nathan's wheelhouse. Ray and Dave Davies, the two brothers at the heart of the band, the Kinks. Now, you might be asking yourself, who are the Kinks? Well, I'm sorry that you have so little knowledge of rock music. They're one of the most influential bands of all of rock music, I would argue. They started out in the early 60s as a brother formed group called the Dave Davies Quartet in the early days, playing around in a lot of the same clubs with a lot of those early sort of like British invasion bands. They had there was a ton of cross-pollination happening back then. And so they started out playing like the skiffle and early like blues rock kind of stuff, and wrote like a lot of really great sort of early blues rock style songs. Like probably everyone knows the song "You Really Got Me Now." That's probably one of their biggest hits, which is an incredible song. And I learned. Did you know that Van Halen's first ever single that they put out was a cover of "You Really Got Me Now"? I didn't know that.
Yes, it's what follows Eruption.
Yes. Nathan knew that. See, I calibrated this one to the host instead of the judge. I knew I fucked up. But anyway, so they had a lot of cross-pollination. Like they played with what's his name? I can't see it in my notes now. Never mind. Rod Stewart, thank you. That's who I'm trying to think of. In the early days, he was briefly their lead singer. And they also had Charlie Watts. Ray Davies played with Charlie Watts briefly, who was the longtime drummer of the Stones. And so still is. Here's to hoping 2021. Still hoping. Right?
Both Brinkman brothers throwing around the wases a lot today. Jimmy Carter was, Charlie Watts was. Jesus.
Also, I gotta jump in. Jimmy Page played some lead guitar on some early Kinks records.
Yes, and so the DNA of 20th century rock itself is woven into the history of the Kinks, and they are also woven into the history of rock. But for me, honestly, the best Kinks, the thing that makes the Kinks worth putting on this list is the album The Muswell Hillbillies, which came out. Yes. Right? It came out in 71. It was a commercial flop. It was critically well received, but it wasn't a big moment in the Kinks history. But that album has aged so well and speaks directly to my soul. It makes me feel bad and good in equal measure. Let me explain. There's all these songs that are about the stresses and anxieties of living life, right? Being a working man. 20th century life is technology stresses me out. There's a acute schizophrenia disease song, right? Which is literally just about being anxiety ridden. All this stuff speaks immediately to the core of me and makes me feel anxious. But then I think, holy shit, this album was written 50 years ago. And all of these same emotional cores of these songs are the same, and he's feeling the same way, which means probably the world isn't ending the way I feel the world is ending sometimes. And that makes me feel good, This
is beautiful.
So there you go. The Davies brothers belong on the list of the greatest brothers of all time.
Well, one of the great tactics on this show is playing to the host, and 60s London rock and roll and the cross-pollination you mentioned is basically the number one interest in my life and has been for many years. When I lived in London, I literally looked at a few apartments. I didn't know where to live. And I literally looked at places in Muswell Hill because I was like, well, I like that album, so I might even so I literally went and just looked. So
Nathan,
that's how much I love that album.
Made you think that seems like a good place to live?
Well,
the title.
because it meant I could probably afford it.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, this is if I had the power to score, you would be getting a record-setting amount of points. So I salute you, but it's going to be up to Brian to how much he wants to see me happy about this versus his own thoughts and how he feels Mitch is going to do here with his number 3.
We'll wait till you hear Mitch's number 2 before I score this.
Or two. Sorry.
Wow. I can only applaud Andy. Muswell Hillbillies is one of my 3 favorite albums. So
I didn't know that, Mitchell. Look at this. I'm learning things about my own brother.
Love that. Absolutely love it. I would say the only other joy I get. I mean, like that's a wonderful thing. I also love other joys in my life, pulling pranks. I love pulling pranks. Best prank I ever pulled. Saran wrap on the toilet seat. Got Andy real good. I remember that one.
With a 1, it was a 1, not a 2.
Yes, it was a 1. But I heard the what? Oh God! And then the do up the stairs, burst my door open and came in and punched me. Very, very, very delicious punch. I totally deserved it. I loved every moment of it. So yeah. But my number 2 is another set of brothers that I'm sure played tons of pranks on each other. I'm sure they gave each other a lot of shit. There's definitely a hierarchy. And these brothers very directly impacted a huge part of my comedy life as a child, and that is the Wayans Brothers. Oh. Why isn't anyone applauding? My God, these guys are incredible. Okay, if I don't know if you guys watched it, but Andy and we watched a ton of In Living Color. That shit was so good, so funny. Basically, it was just like the Wayans family sketch show, led by Keenen Ivory, the oldest guy. Nathan, you'll like this. He wrote and starred on a comedy salute to Michael Jordan in 1991.
I remember. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Dang it, I was hoping you hadn't seen that yet. But yeah. And of course, there's Damon, and then there's Sean, Marlon, and then, of course, there's Kim, but she's not her brother, but she was also on the show. You could debate who had the more, success in terms of like shows they created. Keenen Ivory has created and writes on like The Last OG now. Damon had his own sitcom, and he was kind of like a bit of a movie star in the early 90s. Major Payne. He did a Bruce Willis film, what was it called? The Last Boy Scout. And like Sean and Marlon are kind of like they kind of continued on the helm and working with Keenen in the parody films that they did, all the scary movies, White Chicks, and there's one that was like 50 Shades of Black, I think it was a recent one. But the main thing here I want to talk about is in Living Color, how influential and fucking hilarious these brothers were. My favorite characters, Homie D Clown. He don't play that. It was the most just angry, embittered child party clown, the best ever, played by Damon Wayans. Absolutely love him. Prisoner Oswald Bates.
Yes.
When you really get down to the perception and the peak innuendo, that's when the true triangle reveals the power of the Nintendo. Just absolute baloney bullshit, skewering the English language. Love that character. Appealing to maybe this is where our true love of fecal humor started, was Anton Jackson, the man who carried his own facilities with him. He loved to try and appreciate the finer things in life, Shakespeare in the Park, but he was not above taking boogers out of his nose and placing them someplace for later, or offering his facilities to someone else who had used the restroom. Fire Marshal Bill, Jim Carrey's, might be his comedic peak.
These guys gave Jim Carrey his big break. Like, we wouldn't have Jim Carrey without these brothers.
Absolutely. Andy?
I was going to say, in J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez got her start as a fly girl on the Wayans, or in Living
Absolutely.
Color. Yeah.
Also, Jamie Foxx was a featured player on season 2. His character Wanda was very famous for being just absolutely hideous, but having an incredible amount of self-confidence and just knowing she was a snack. And that when people would literally like jump back in horror, she'd be like, I don't know why they're acting like they just saw some kind of ghoul. I don't know what the fuck they're looking at. And so incredible. David Alan Greer, another legendary comedic performer. One of my favorites throughout the past 3 decades. So the Wayans brothers just kept on giving. The whole family, they're just kept creating, kept writing, kept producing stuff. So they are very high on my list. And actually doing research on this, I ended up watching In Living Color clips for a solid 2 hours. And sure, it dates itself sometimes, and there's like, whatever, some off-color stuff, like, Men on Film, probably a little offensive now, but at the time, quite incredible. So Wayans Brothers.
I know that the rest of my Saturday that we recorded this after we go our separate ways here, I'm going to be listening to the Kinks and watching In Living Color. So
simultaneously,
you guys have set me up for success. So I'm pretty thrilled about this round. But Brian, how do you feel?
I feel pretty good because even though Andy was playing to you, he has no idea about my Van Halen phase freshman year of high school, where I drew the Van Halen logo in Sharpie on my red Jansport backpack.
Hell yeah, brother.
As Van Halen, the album starts with Running with the Devil, into Eruption, into You Really Got Me, into Ain't Talking About Love, plus the Kinks, known for You Really Got Me and Father Christmas. That's 3 points. That's not a problem there. But Mitch, if this was all about In Living Color, you'd be getting 5 points because In Living Color is amazing. But you had to include Marlon on this list. And while I was filming a promo for A Haunted House 2, Marlon was just a total dick, so I can only give you 2 points. Yeah, he was not a pleasant guy. He had a very big ego and was just like leaving his gum places and going behind a closed bar and like pouring himself a drink in this place that we weren't really allowed to be like doing things in. He was just kind of a nightmare. So you only get 2 points for that. Sorry.
You know what? This may not be a smart strategic move, but I have to defend my brother here. This is the brother episode. How could Mitchell have known that you had a negative experience with Marlon Wayans, Brian?
Should have.
Now that... I mean, to be fair, I think he did evoke white chicks, which I thought was a strategic misstep. But still,
I mean, it's without my remit for this episode, but I was biting my tongue pretty hard as a mention of that piece of cinematic mastery that we.
You could have mentioned Little Man or Dance Flick as well. It would have been like, wow. Because Keenan Ivory is clearly the patriarchy here. He's the brains of the operation and the one we owe it all to. But it's Marlon who brings down their value, unfortunately.
The reason I mentioned white chicks is because I've met one of the cast members, comedian Gary Owen, before. So, I consider a friend to be in that film. So that's why I mentioned it.
You're practically in it, Mitchell. So
I had Thanksgiving with the guy. It's like that's part of my history now. So
I promise when we talk about the most influential TV shows or best sketch comedy shows of all time, you will be getting at least 5 points for In Living Color. But until that day comes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well,
the maddening ingrace of your incompetitude is really working to overslap the cerebral back time of my skull time. So yeah, there we go.
Impressive.
Thank you.
Okay then. Well, there's only one place to go after that, and that is to our number ones on the list. This is it. It all comes
just
down
for
to
Andy.
This.
Just for Andy.
That's right. We only have Andy's number one. Mitch has already been exposed by Andy's expert play of listing the Coen Brothers at his number 5. So Andy, the floor is yours to bring us home. It's all to play for. Let's have your number 1.
So in an 11th hour twist, I'm going to reveal something about myself. I'm a huge video game nerd. What? Yeah, weird, right? My number 1 greatest brother duo of all time is the Super Mario Brothers.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
People often forget the super. The super is very important. In my opinion, no other brother duo in history can touch Mario and Luigi just on the sheer number of lives saved, like alone, right? They have gone into the Mushroom Kingdom countless times, and single-handedly, double-handedly ensured the continuity of the Toadstool crown. Like, there would be no monarchy in the Toadstool Kingdom without Mario and Luigi. Let's just be clear. So, for you royalists out there, they started out from humble beginnings. They seemingly are parentless in the sequel to Super Mario World. They're both babies. They literally defeat a Bowser, who would be their lifelong enemy, and go on an adventure across spike pits and dark caves and like haunted castles. All this while infants, literally in diapers, saved the world. I don't know how you can get more heroic than that. But it's not just the actual the actual direct action of the Mario Brothers that makes them so great. It's their cultural heroics. The Mario Brothers are lifestyle icons that have done so much to normalize what used to be far less accepted niche expressions, some not so niche expressions, but like they've helped normalize drug use. Those motherfuckers are popping mushrooms constantly, clearly on psychedelics of some type, right? But still the protagonists, still heroes, right? Furry culture. They wear suits of all types, cat suits and stuff, and still like heroes saving the day. Foot fetishists, Karibo's shoe from Super Mario Brothers 3. You're just getting all up inside of a giant shoe, bouncing around in there. Totally cool. Totally a cool guy hero thing to do. Strong facial hair. Like I would argue.
Mustache rides.
I don't want to, and I don't think I need to speculate on the sexual preference of the Mario Brothers, but I think you can make an argument for them being gay icons. They're impeccably groomed, strongly harmonized colors, great big facial hair. Their skincare regime must be incredible because they look better today than they did 35 years ago when they first came on the scene. Gay icons, I am telling you. So they've made the world a safer place physically and culturally, and that is why I think the Super Mario Brothers are the greatest brother duo of all time.
That was a beautiful defense of the Super Mario Brothers. I do have a question it's bothered me for years, and I would like, perhaps you can provide me with an answer, and then I have a second question that's both for you and Mitch. But my first question is, Super Mario Brothers, but their names are Mario and Luigi. Like, if I was talking about you and Mitch, I wouldn't say, oh, it's the Andy Brothers. I feel that would be very disrespectful to Mitch. So where does that name hierarchy come in?
It's Mario, and Luigi Mario. Much like Dave Davies, Mario is just that much of a badass that he's got to name twice.
Just like the Kinks. Oh, yeah. Well, that was the perfect answer. Okay. And then my question to both of you is, do you, and for God's sake, I hope you do, and if you don't, then who would it be? Who would be the lifelong enemy that the two of you have been fighting, dueling back and forth for decades now? The two of you against one.
My God.
Is there some dark, ghoulish figure from your past?
Is it Brendan? Is it that kid?
It might be Brendan.
Yeah.
There was a kid named, we were texting about him this morning, actually.
Yeah, literally texting this morning. This kid, this little fucker named Brendan, who lived like 3 blocks away from us, went to our school, and he was, I think, in the grade between us, or maybe 2 above me and 1 below Andy or something. But he would bike around the neighborhood, and he had a bottle of water and bleach, and he would spray kids with a bleach substance.
What a dick.
Yeah, it was like actually quite dangerous. You can blind a child with bleach in the eyes. Yeah, and he had this fucking even bigger than our foreheads, like just massive, disgusting pale forehead. This gross
which
little
for people listening only, that's a large forehead. That's a very big forehead.
It's a very big forehead, and he just always had this, this face like he was 11, but you're like, did you just go smoke a cigarette? Like you just like gross little crap head. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if you
and so
remember anything else about
the one day when like the straw that broke the camel's back, he was like riding around our block spraying bleach at us again, and finally Mitchell and I were like, "Fuck this little kid." We get our like our baseball bats. Like he wasn't actually he was our age, right? Not like we're chasing a child as adults, but we're like 10, 12. We get baseball bats. He's riding on his bike, and we start running down the block chasing him, being like, I don't know. We weren't actually going to hurt him, but like we chased after him. He ran.
Scare tactics.
Yeah, scare tactics, 100%. Straight to his house. By the time we got to his, what an idiot. He led us directly to his house. Not that we did anything, but when we got there, his mom was at the front door. He was literally standing behind his mom, cowering and crying because we were chasing him. So, Brandon,
are you wearing the shirt that you were hit with the bleach that day?
Yes. Yeah. I carry the emotional scars to this day.
This Brendan kid is lucky that you weren't as fast as Mitch was boasting about at the beginning. Because if you two had caught him before he got behind his mother, I hate to think what would have happened.
If he hadn't been on his bike, I absolutely would have caught him, and then Andy would have come up with the hefty lefty swing that he normally put the balls over the right field fence, and just would have crushed a kneecap easily. So would have been awesome.
And we'd be recording from prison.
That's true.
Yeah, the sound quality wouldn't be as good from behind glass.
All right, well, Brian, it's down to you now to score out Andy's number one, and this will close out the game. So please let us know what you're scoring for Andy for round one, and give us the final scores. Tell us who is the victor in this battle of the brothers.
My last
will finally win their parents' adoration.
Oh, at last.
At last. Andy, your argument was impeccable for the Super Mario Brothers, and there's nothing I love more than a rags to riches story of two Italian plumbers. So we've got
I was so happy he picked the Mario Brothers, because I was sure he was going to pick the other Italian American brothers, the Cuomo brothers. I was like dead set. I was like, here comes the Cuomos. Andy loves the Cuomos.
I do not.
He has a secret Twitter account that's just like a Cuomo fanboy account. It's disgusting, and there's a lot of workout pics.
Cuomo-sexual. Oh man, I think this might be a record setting of 3 points in a row. If you would have had that stare down, it would have been a massive lead. But at 12-11, Andy Brinkman is the victor by 1 point.
Oh, he's done it. He's only gone and done it.
Wow.
He is our sweet, dumb, handsome boy today.
Well, we know who the Owen Wilson is, and we know who the Luke Wilson is in the Brinkman family. And that brings our show to a close, except for my Fast Five, where now, at this moment, I am going to reveal the definitive list of the top 5 guys of all time. Here it is. Top 5 guys.
Wait, hold on. Nathan, can I just say, we played action figures as kids. We always called it guys. We're going to play guys, we'd always say. So this is actually incredible. So if Wolverine is on this list, you've won. So
let's play guys.
This is the most epic game of guys we're ever going to play. The top 5 guys of all time. Number 5, Guy Foxx. Remember the 5th of November. On November 5th, Guy Foxx was arrested at the Houses of Parliament in London, where he had helped set up massive explosives in an attempt to assassinate King James I. Citizens were encouraged to celebrate by lighting bonfires across the city, a tradition that carries on to this day. However, masks of his likeness, made famous in the graphic novel and film V for Vendetta, are a symbol of anti-established protests everywhere. Was he a terrorist? Or was he, as he was described by one historian, the last man with honest intentions to enter Parliament? I don't have the answers. I can only say, what a guy. Number 4. Number 4, Guy Lombardo. This affable band leader provided many hits and wholesome New Year's Eve entertainment live on TV and radio for over 5 decades. If subdued crooning in rooms of sterile white people dancing doesn't set your toes a-tapping, how about this? This guy was also a champion hydroplane racer, winning every trophy available in the sport, only retiring at age 57 after surviving a crash while attempting to break the absolute water speed record, traveling at over 250 miles per hour.
Whoa.
Yeah. all you can say is, that's a hell of a guy. Number 3, that one guy. You know, that guy. You remember he was that guy who was always running around with that, what's her name? And we met them at the party at that other guy's house. And he always wore that hat. Yeah, that guy. No, not him. The other guy. Yeah, that one guy. Number 2, Guy Fieri. Make fun of the hair all you want. Make fun of the gaudy, kitschy, oversized button-up short-sleeve shirts that make him look, as someone once described him to me, as the guy who looks like he's perpetually on his way to a bowling alley. But did you know he was responsible for raising over $20 million for unemployed workers in the service industry during the COVID-19 pandemic? What a great guy.
Wow.
Number 1, Five Guys Burgers. This fast casual burger chain has enjoyed so much success that our number 2 on this list himself would even be envious. Then President Barack Obama even took fellow lawmakers out to lunch at a Washington, D.C. Five Guys location in 2011. And what an unbelievable slogan. 5 guys, when 4 guys simply aren't enough. And that's this week's edition of Über Cinco. Our fair and just scorekeeper from out in Berwyn, Illinois has been
Brian Ernst.
And our winner from Glendale, California has been
Andy Brinkman.
And our loser from the Southport Corridor in Chicago has been Mrs. Brinkman's baby boy.
Brinkman Boy 2.0, the better version. Thank you.
And I've been Nathan Henfent. As Bisber always says, he ain't heavy. Horizontal stripes just aren't very slimming. Auf Wiedersehen and adios.
I know one thing. I did that thing, that last piece into the camera. I kept doing that over and over. I did 15 takes on that camera, on that thing where I'm looking into the lens in the end, talking about poor Donnie and blah, blah, and, you know, that there's going to be a little Lebowski coming into the world. And I remember getting to about, I don't know, somewhere to take 14 or whatever it was, and asking the guys, and they both sit right by the camera, both of the brothers, and I said, you guys got to tell me, man. I said, I don't know what you want, you know, tell me what you want. I said, oh shit, we had it on the 5th or 6th take, we just like watching it.
You've just listened to Über Cinco, a production of UBK Studios. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your fine podcasts from.
If you like what you hear and want to support the show, please visit our Patreon site at patreon.com/UBK Studios. Every little bit helps us keep the lights on and the bill collectors at bay.
Keep tabs on us on all the social media at UBK Studios, and most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see that we really are just a bunch of good Midwestern boys.